Tiến sĩ Henry sẽ được chia làm hai phần. Phần đầu tiên thì khoảng độ 1 tiếng 45 phút để giới thiệu về những cái đặc điểm thiết kế kết nối côn của hãng MIS. Sau đó thì phần còn lại thì sẽ đi sâu về cái việc mà làm phục hình ở trên implant kết nối côn của MIS. Thì cái mà quan trọng nhất ấy, là cái trao đổi giữa tất cả các người tham dự cùng với nếu như quý vị các bạn có câu hỏi nào thì có thể dừng lại, thì có thể ghi xuống và để đến cái phần cuối chúng ta có thể trao đổi. Cái quan trọng nhất là có thể trao đổi được với nhau. Bây giờ chúng ta sẽ bắt đầu. Ok, Henry.
Okay. Good morning, everyone. First of all, let me introduce myself. My name is Henry, and I am the Global Training Manager for Dentsply Sirona MIS. And I'm part of the international Dentsply Sirona implant group. So today our subjects will be prosthetic for the conical connection of the MIS implant system. I will start by introducing the conical connection of the MIS implants. We'll take a couple minute break, and then we'll move into the prosthetic option as far as what's available as far as the conical connection prosthetic option. So let me start. In the MIS conical connection, we have basically two main areas that we have an advantage. Our mechanical advantage and a biological advantage, that is this very special geometrically design of our C1 implant in this particular case. In order to achieve mechanical stability and mechanical advantages, all our implants, all our prosthetic parts are made out of titanium alloy, grade 23, medical grade of type 5 titanium. It's an alloy. It's a mix of aluminum, vanadium, and titanium. TI 6AL4V. 90% titanium, 6% aluminum, 4% vanadium. And it's a balanced alloy. The surface treatment is a pure SLA with no chemical modification. And this is something very, very important to remember. Our implants do not go through any chemical modification. On the other hand, all the prosthetic parts that we're going to see today are made from the exact same titanium compared to a lot of different companies. So the adaptation in the interface inside the connection, it's the same titanium touching each other. Grade 23 abutment into a grade 23 implant, compared to a lot of other companies that have type 4 implant and type 5 abutment. That will cause a problem, because if the abutment is a stronger material, implant connection must start failing, especially under load. When you are loading the abutment, when you are loading the implants, that's where the problem will start. So we made sure, that our abutment and our implant are made from the same titanium. Biological advantage is something different. Biological advantage is the surface treatment that we do, the adaptation of bone or bone cells into the implant. Now, when it comes to the abutment, all our abutments are concaved, tulip shape with a concaved emergence profile. We will see that in a few minutes. That will give us our biological advantage. Extra soft tissue, higher volume of soft tissue, healthier soft tissue. This way, and overall, when you are using this type of a connection, you have the biological advantage of the extra soft tissue, better blood supply, better bone healing, and the mechanical of having a strong product. The MS conical connection is a 12-degree, side to side, 2 millimeter in length, just the way you see it now. It's 12-degree side to side and 2 millimeter dip. What you can see in here this section is 2 millimeters. This extra area over here, it's an extra 1 millimeter. That is the engagement. This is the index. That's the index. Side to side, 12-degree. And the most important part, it is a friction fit connection. Okay, a cone in a cone. It's like the Morse tapered effect. We cannot call it Morse taper because the degree is different, but it's a very deep connection. 2 millimeters of friction fit. Benefits: minimizing micro movement, minimizing bacterial leakage, and lower stress on the prosthetic screw. This guy right here in the middle. So let's go over these three things to make sure that we understand what is the biggest benefit as far when it comes to the conical connection. When we see the adaptation, you can see it right in here. It's a very tight and sealed connection compared to an internal hex system, for instance, that is passively fitted. This is not a passive connection. A passive connection is when you take an abutment and it drops into the connection. That's why, until today, a lot of clinicians likes the internal hex connection. It's simple, easy to use. You don't have to think about how to fit the abutment. It will fall in. In a conical connection, it's a tiny bit different. You have the effect of a metal rubbing against a metal. It's the friction fit. You need to make sure that you have proper adaptation. That is the biggest thing. On the other hand, bacterial leakage, there is a huge reduced in the bacterial leakage into the implant. Resistant of movement. Conical connection, as you can see right in here, all the stress goes to the actual abutment itself, not on the connection. Compared to internal hex that creates the gaps, and in external hex, of course, that is long gone, creating the gap. There is a stress on the screw, huge amount of stress on prosthetic screws. When it comes to hex connection, the only thing that holds the implant and the abutment together is the prosthetic screw. compared to a conical connection, the implant itself adapts into the abutment with the friction fit. The screw is an additional security to lower the movement. And this is a very, very important point. You will see less screw breakage in conical system versus the hex system. Everybody's familiar with this? You can definitely see in a conical connection, when we're applying a very low force, only of 250 newtons, okay, on an assembly, abutment and an implant together, you can see the movement, the abutment moves together with the implant. Same force on an internal hex connection, and you can actually see right in here how there's a huge gap because it's just sitting over here. There's no friction. The adaptation is through the screw. Every time this happens, bacteria leaks in. And more bacteria leaks in. And you guys should all know, it's very simple. When you go and you remove a cover screw or a healing cap from an internal hex connection, you can smell dead bacteria in the room. You can smell it. The patient also, throughout the healing process, all the time have bad taste in his mouth. Compared to a conical connection, it's much, much less noticeable. When you remove a healing abutment or a cover screw from a conical connection, the smell in the room is not as bad as an internal hex. And why is that? You can see right in here, bacterial leakage. There is a reduction of about 30% of bacteria going inside the connection because it's a tight connection. And also there's reduce of 22 degrees in bacteria going out of the connection. Okay, compared to an internal hex connection, you can see right in here, 100% in, 100% out. Bacteria will get trapped into the connection. When you open it up, you can smell it in the room. Less torque, higher resistance, because the connection itself takes all the torque, okay? And this is a test that was done at 20 Newton centimeters only 20 Newton centimeters. When you take a torque like that, you can definitely see the more tapered effect in a 15-time cycle, okay? There is less torque. But on the other hand, you have higher torque with less resistance. Marginal bone loss. The whole thing. When you have less micro movement, when you have less bacterial leakage, what the doctors can see basically will be less marginal bone loss around the neck of the implant, exactly in that interface between the implant and the abutment, that first 1 millimeter, that's where you're going to see the marginal bone loss. Because if you have a lot of micro movement, bone will die back. If you have a lot of bacteria that will create inflammation, you're going to get the bone loss. So you can definitely see on our test group, from baseline all the way to 12 months, you have much, much lower marginal bone loss than the control group right in. And of course, this is another study that was done lately showing two groups of implant, conical connection implant with internal hex implant, okay? 60 C1 implant and 400 and SPI. These are alpha bio implant in the internal hex connection versus the conical connection. You can definitely see between 1 year to 5 years how big the difference is as far as the marginal bone loss. Okay? Because the effect of the implant abutment connection, that is the effect. You can definitely see. Now, I'm not trying to knock down the internal hex connection. Please mind you that we still have a lot of internal hex connection systems around the world. It's the original system. Nothing is wrong with it. But the doctors need to understand there is a different way. There is a different way to handle internal hex system. You need to make sure that you are not burying the implant below the bone. You need to make sure that you're using the right abutment. You need to make sure that you reduce the movement. There's a lot of things that you need to do. In a conical connection, it is part of the system. By using a conical system, when it comes to the prosthetic option, sometimes it's harder. You need to think a little bit more, but your results are much, much better. You can definitely see 5 years difference between marginal bone loss. It is significantly a big change. It is a big change. And that was the study. If somebody is interested, I'll be more than happy to share it with you guys. These are the guys who did the actual study. One more thing, and we finished with that. Load failure of different titanium abutments for an internal hex system. As you all know, because the internal hex system has been around forever, every doctor, every lab technician, every guy who does restoration understand what is a 2.45 hex connection is. It's simple, straightforward, and like we said, passively fitted. And everything fits each other. You have a Zimmer implant with an MIS part on it, it will work. You have a BioHorizon implant with an MIS part on it, it will work, and vice versa. You have an Alpha Bio abutment on an MIS implant, it will work. On top of all the knockoffs, the third-party connections or the third-party companies who just make abutments, that's all they do, is they're creating abutments, okay? It's very simple. A hex connection is easy to make, very cheap to make, okay? And a lot of doctors, a lot of clinicians, and I don't blame them because you can buy an abutment for $15 or $20 versus $150 if you buy an original. But there is a problem, okay? Because when it goes into a load, now you have different potentials. Because those guys who make those abutment, the knockoffs, the third party, they're not using the exact same titanium like most implant companies. They are not so precise in their machinery like the implant company. The adaptation is not the same. So an internal hex system, it's open, everybody can mix each other as long as you have the same restoration platform, and most of them do. 2.45 hex with the 350 prosthetic platform. Most of you guys understand what I'm saying. It's an international connection. Everybody have it, everybody can use it, and a lot of doctors do that. Compared to a conical connection, you cannot mix between companies. What made Nobel and Straumann and Dentsply where we are today as the premium leaders in the market, we had our own connection. So each company and each manufacturer picked the type of connection we want to do, and that's where we went with. Nobel had the tri-lobe, the Mickey Mouse connection. Nobody copied that. Nobel came out with that. Straumann, from day one, they had the 11-degree the 22 degrees conical connection. Nobody copied that. Ankylus, one of the originator of the conical connection, originally started with an 11-degree connection. Nobody copied that. Same thing with the MIS. 12-degree connection of MIS. You cannot get any copy nowhere. Can you create your own connection? Yes, you can. That's why we have Atlantis. That's why we have CEREC. That's why we have a lot of things in order to create a custom abutment. But you are the one who's controlling that. You cannot go into a different company, into a shelf of a different company, and buy the exact connection, like a conical connection, across the board. Across the board, you cannot do that. And this is the biggest advantage of the conical connection. At least you are sure that your adaptation, your interface, implant to abutment is exactly the same. Of course, platform identification, we have all that. It's color coding. You can see here that the abutment matches the implant. If you have a purple implant platform, you will use the purple abutment. You can see right in here, this is an example of the abutment. They're all gold shaded, anodized, with a platform identification. Why? This will not fit anywhere else except on the purple. The green will fit only on the green, nowhere else. Perfect adaptation. Our conical connection features in the narrow platform 4 engagement point or 4 positioning. Our standard platform and the wide platform have 6 positioning points. You can see right in here, the wide platform also 6 indexes. Mind you, the first 2 millimeter are friction fit. That extra 1 millimeter on the bottom have the groove that will engage inside this connection. That's what's going to give us the index. That's what's going to give us the adaptation abutment to implant on an engaging connection. Single. When you do your single restoration, you need your index for positioning. Bridge work, 2 implants and up, you have the non-engagement option. So the connection is only 2 millimeter. That 1 millimeter on the bottom is cut off. We will see it in a few minutes. Biological consideration, we looked at it earlier, okay? Mechanical consideration, we will go through that in the next presentation when we're going to see all the options that we have as far as the prosthetic option. There's a few rules that we need to remember when we come to the advantage of this connection. Protecting the bone. For example, here we show a case using the connect abutment. We'll talk about it in a few minutes. You can see right in here, the implant here is embedded into the bone, about 1.5 millimeters below the bone level. A connect abutment is actually put in. Look how nice soft tissue grows around this abutment, this connection. And look at the bone. Very sturdy, no bone loss. This is one of the biggest advantages. We are protecting the bone when we have the right connection with the right abutment. When we are picking the right abutment, and I will show you that, we have something that I call follow the case. And the case will start on the day of the surgery. The doctor who picks the healing abutment actually is determining the way that the case will look like. That's why we have a huge selection of healing abutments. And the whole idea is, if you will start with the concave emergence profile of 2 millimeters on the day of your surgery, you must follow through all the way until the case is done with the exact same prosthetic component, with the exact same emergence profile. Otherwise, you will heal and cut. and heal and cut the soft tissue. The main idea here is to make sure to prevent damages on the surrounding soft tissue. You will pick the healing abutment and you will follow through. It's called consistent emergence profile. For instance, you can see right in here, the same way that we took the impression, it's the same exact way that my final restoration looks like. You will see it in a few minutes, how to pick the right components to achieve that. You see, I'm not interrupting the bone. I'm not interrupting the soft tissue. We have the exact same profile, the way we took the impression, and we have the exact same profile on my final restoration. And that is the key, is to make sure to pay close attention when choosing the prosthetic components. Prosthetic design, of course, you always have to make sure that you understand if you want to go cement, screw retain, CAD-CAM. The conical connection provide biological advantages and promises more stable tissue reconnection, which minimizing the prosthetic interaction close to the bone. This is something very important to remember. It does not matter if you're going to go with a screw retain or with a cement retain. It's up to you. It's up to your clinician. It's up to your lab. By picking the right abutment, following through, you will actually get predictable results. And that's one of the most important parts. And here you can see the example. This is exactly what I was talking about. Emergence profile on my healing abutment will match my temporary, will match my cement restoration, even will match my screw retain multi-unit, for instance. It does not matter what you pick. The case always starts here. Always starts here. So following through and deciding on the prosthetic option is the key of a successful case. Because mind you, at the end of the day, when everything is done, when your patient goes back home and he looks in the mirror and he opens his mouth and he smiles, they don't see the abutment. They don't see the implant. They don't see all the hard work that you guys did. They see a nice crown emerging from a healthy soft tissue. That's all it takes. And if a customer is happy, everybody is happy. But if a customer goes home and you have receding gum lines, and you have white spots on your soft tissue, black triangles, he's not happy. And if he's not happy, everybody will know that he's not happy. Cement retain restoration, single unit, still available. Selecting the abutment, multiple unit also in the cement, still available. Everything's available. We'll go over all that. And of course, screw retain single units and screw retain multiple units. Multi-unit, connect. We'll talk about all that. Consistent of the emergence profile. That's where it all starts. We always need to consider tissue level and bone level. These are what we're working with. Now, mind you, most of you guys are restoring doctors, or you do the restoration part, if I understood from Shlomi, that's who is the crown is today. So some of you guys who place and restore, you have a little bit more control. It's your case. You will see your same patient again. But in some cases, another doctor places the implant and then the patient comes and sits in your office. You need to make sure to understand those two different lines, bone level and tissue level. So communication between placing a doctor and restoring a doctor is very important. And like I said earlier, that's where it's all started. To choose the right healing cap will determine the way the case will look. because we will have to take an impression with the right profile. We will have to use the temporary cylinder at the same profile. My cementing post will have to maintain the same profile. CPK, for instance, will have to maintain the same profile. The angulated abutment will have to maintain the same profile. And even when we get into the multi-unit, also maintaining the same profile. What if that gives me? Think about it. At the end of the day, when everything is done and everything is healing, we have one profile. Consistent emergence profile throughout all the prosthetic components allows an efficient restoration process, leading to a better aesthetic result. And this is the key, and that is the case. When you look at the MIS prosthetic option, you think, oh my God, what do I pick? How come I have so many parts? Just because of that. If you start with 3mm profile, you need to continue with the 3mm profile. If you start with a 5mm profile, you have to continue with the 5mm profile, and so on and so forth. If you consistent your emergence profile at all time, you will get better aesthetic solution. And that is the case. A conical system is an aesthetically pleasing system, especially the combination of MIS C1 with the prosthetic option of MIS. Predictable result, I can show you tons of cases. I'm going to show you a little bit more cases later on. For instance, this was done by Dr. Alvarez in Ecuador. A C1 implant was placed, of course, subcrestally. You cannot see the implant. A connect abutment was placed on the day of the surgery. This is like a multi-unit. Placed in, you can see the connect abutment inside the implant. And of course, a temporary cylinder was placed on the same day. Excellent solution. We'll talk about it in a few minutes. This is the way the case looks at the end. Look how nice emergence profile we have on the connect abutment. Contour of the soft tissue. Now my final restoration will come in. Doctors are happy, patients are happy, everybody is happy. Again, picking the right implant, adapting the right component to it, gives you a predictable result. For instance, here, 2 narrow implants with CPKs. You can see here, here's the implants. You can actually see the 4 indexes. This is C1 narrow right in here, and with 2 CPKs on top of that. Right in here, you can see it right there. What is the take-home message of the whole thing? Bone preservation. Conical connection minimize implant abutment micro-movement. Platform switching on the implant inhibits or reduces the bone loss. Concave emergence profile lead to extra soft tissue. The conical connection minimize bacterial leakage. The conical connection ensured secure fit. And of course, versatile solution. We have screw retained, cement retained, digital solution, CAD/CAM, CEREC, Atlantis, thin, standard, and wide. Color coding that actually works for all clinical indications. This was the introduction of the conical connection. Do you guys have any question about the connection of the MIS implant? Daniel, no questions? Cannot hear you guys.
Anh Hiếu ơi, em tắt cái chế độ phiên dịch rồi đó để cho mọi người có câu hỏi.
Okay.
Với lại mọi người có câu hỏi thì mọi người cứ mở mic lên ha.
Okay, Henry, I turn off the interpretation function, so now you can hear me.
Okay.
Okay. So I think that there's no question at the moment for the introduction part. Yeah. Maybe the second part we'll have more questions.
Okay. Now how many of the doctors here online are only restoring and some of them are doing restoration with the...
Không biết là hôm nay là có bao nhiêu bác sĩ tham dự hay là chủ yếu là chúng ta là kỹ thuật viên labo và những người làm về mặt kỹ thuật ạ. There are about 20 doctors, 20 dentists.
Okay.
Yeah.
And all of them place and restore?
Không biết là các bác sĩ mà tham dự ấy, thì các bác sĩ là vừa đặt implant và vừa phục hình ạ, hay là các bác sĩ chỉ làm phục hình trên implant do người khác đặt ạ?
Hiện tại em thấy có câu hỏi của bác sĩ Việt Anh đó anh.
Anh nhìn thấy rồi, nhưng mà câu hỏi đấy Việt Anh ơi, anh có thể để dành câu hỏi đấy đến phần mà giới thiệu Connect được không? Tại vì một chút nữa là Henry sẽ giới thiệu về Connect ấy, thì anh sẽ lưu ý anh đặt cái câu hỏi đấy để cho Henry trả lời cho em nhé.
Ok, em cảm ơn anh.
Ok.
Give me one second. Load up. Can you see my screen now?
Yes.
Okay. So let's start with the prosthetic solution.
Chúng ta sẽ bắt đầu với cái giải pháp.
And we'll go over a few things today. And please ask now as many questions as possible. First of all, we need to understand that we have a few things that we're going to talk about. A broad range of all restorative solutions. Concave emergence profile that gives me extra soft tissue, smooth surfaces with round edges. This is something very important to remember. You can see right in, let me get my pointer again. You can see right in here, smooth edges, it's not roughed, platform switching, concave emergence profile that will give me excellent aesthetic outcomes. Uncompromised accuracy, a perfect connection, conical connection right in here. Gold shaded for visual, mind you, all the teeth, all the restoration parts are translucent. A gold shade in the back will give you a more natural appearance versus the gray lines. And of course, everything is color coded to match. The C1 and the V3 components will match with the exact same connection. And here it is all across the board. Standard platform on the C1 matches the V3 standard platform. V3 has the blue platform with 3 indexes. C1 has the 4 index platform. And here you can see basically everything together. The whole prosthetic conical connection system of MIS on one page. In the narrow, we have narrow C1, narrow V3, blue and yellow. In the standard, they're all the same. Standard C1 and standard V3 are all sharing the same components. And in the white platform, the green platform only exists on the C1. This is just so you guys remember, full adaptation, because it's the same connection. Two different implants, but with the exact same conical system. You can use V3 and C1 on the same patient. You will restore it with the same prosthetic line. You will use the exact same surgical kit. So it's one system, two different implants. Consistent emergence profile. This is exactly what we're going to see throughout the whole case today. Healing abutment. We have to match the impression coping. We'll have to match the temporary. We'll have to match cemented restoration, screw retain restoration, and even all the way to CAD/CAM. These two lines, tissue level, bone level, are extremely important things to remember when it comes to the prosthetic option of the MIS system. Here it is. You can see same prosthetic option, same line, same consistent emergence profile. If you start this way and you start understanding how to follow through, you're going to get better results. Less callbacks into your office. You're done with your patient, you're not going to see him again until he comes for the maintenance, cleanup or whatever. He's never going to come back and complain that something is moving, the gum, you can see the abutment, it's not nice, it's not straight. You will avoid all that. You will avoid all that. Think how much money you can save of revisiting and redoing cases. So today we're going to talk about all these things. Healing abutments, provisional or temporary restoration, impression coping, cement, screw, overdenture, and of course titanium bases. That is part of the digital solution. Okay, us MIS being part of Dentsply Sirona, we have full access to CEREC. I don't know how many of you guys are CEREC users, but we all embedded into CEREC, and of course into all the digital options or the digital workflow of the Dentsply group. We are part of it as well. So if any of you guys are into scanning, CAD/CAM design, and so on and so forth, we are part of that. Also, we have the external connection with 3Shape, with the exocad. So we have both options. If you are not a Dentsply Sirona user, you can always use a 3Shape, iTero, whatever scanner you use. You can still design our CAD/CAM solution because we have an open system with exocad. Dental wings, you can create your own CAD/CAM solution. You don't have to stay within the Dentsply Sirona. Healing abutments. Let's start with that. That's where it's all started. Healing abutments, as you know, shape the soft tissue during the healing process, after the implant placement. Protect and seal the implant to prevent bacteria or soft tissue growth into the connection. Everybody knows that. It's simple. The main thing is to understand what type I should pick. The tool to use, 0.05 hex driver, standard driver, nothing special. When you place it in, 7 turns until it reaches the bottom, 1 extra force, you don't have to torque it down. You don't have to torque it down. By hand, you can achieve 17 to 20 Newton centimeters. That's all you need in order to protect your connection with your healing abutment. For example, this is the way it should look. The healing abutment should be above your soft tissue. The concave part is underneath over here, shaping the soft tissue. You cannot bury these. If you're burying those, you might as well use the cover screw that comes with the implant for free. You don't need to bury those. Now we also have 3 types of profile within each platform. We have the thin ones. Excuse me a second. The standard profile and the anatomic profile. Now, where do you put each one? It's very basic, very simple if you try to remember. Front teeth, okay, anterior zone, canine and incisors, molars, premolars. That's all you need to remember. Okay, front, middle, back. Thin, your front teeth, always less room between your adjacent teeth. You need something tall and skinny to heal. Canine and incisors, you have more room. You can use your standard profile. These are profiles. So standard platform, thin profile. Standard platform with a standard profile. Standard platform with an anatomic profile. Okay? The anatomic, of course, molars, premolars, you want to push the soft tissue as far as possible in order to create that huge cavity in order to fit the larger crown. So that's where you start, indication. Where do you put what? You need to decide. Thin, standard, and anatomic. Then you need to decide what type of heights I want to go. And if you can see here, you have a lot of options. This is the platform, narrow, standard, and wide. So let's look at the standard platform right in the middle. It's the easiest way to remember. In the thin profile, that is basically 3.9, that's the profile of it. You have 3 millimeter, 4 millimeter, 5 millimeter, 6 millimeter, 8 millimeter options on the height. Why we have 6 and 8? Mind you, in the conical connection, most doctors will always do a subcrestal delivery. You will place the implant 1.5 to 2 millimeter below the bone in order to protect the implant connection, in order to protect the bone, in order to get better aesthetic solution, okay? You will place the implant below the bone. That's protecting the implant, by the way. If we all know, okay, that within the first year, we're going to lose about 1 millimeter of bone because of the pressure on the cortical zone. If I know that already from all the studies, and everybody understands that, I have the option, because I have a platform switch, because I have an implant that is flat on the top, I can take that 1.5 millimeter below the bone, place the implant below the bone, start working on it. My restoration will be better. So think about it. Even if you're going to lose your 1 millimeter in the first year, you'll be fine. Your implant is still protected with bone around it. Mind you, always remember the biological width. Soft tissue will follow the bone. If you're going to lose 1 millimeter of bone, you will lose 1 millimeter of soft tissue. They go together in the 3D dimension. So if we know that, if we have predictable results, if I know that, we will place the implants below the bone level. But that's another subject. This is for surgery, so we can talk about it in a different session if you guys are interested. But just to let you know, if you can see here, when you do that, you have the option of picking taller abutments, higher abutments, just for that particular case. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 8 in the standard. This is the most common one. 4.8 platform, standard implant, standard platform. This is the most common healing abutment you're going to use. The only thing you need to remember, pick the right height. Now, how do you pick the height? For instance, if I have a narrow and thin healing abutment, I need to remember to order the thin impression coping. Otherwise, we will push the soft tissue to the side. So this is the next step. Picking the right healing abutment, I need to make sure that I have the right impression coping. Otherwise, poor lab technician, you will give him the wrong information. So this is something a little bit different. You need to change the way you're thinking, because now you know, your doctor should know, your placing doctor should know, you as the clinician who will restore the case, you need to understand that the case started with the choice of the healing abutment. The choice of the healing abutment will determine the way the case is going to look like. Can you change halfway? Of course you can. Of course you can. But why creating another healing period? Mind you, soft tissue heals very, very quick. Okay? 10 days, 14 days, scar will go away. But think about how many times you will mess with the bone and with the soft tissue every time you cut and you heal and you cut and you heal. At the end of the day, you're going to get a white line, less blood supply. Your soft tissue is not going to look as healthy as before, to the point that you're going to get scar tissue, not soft tissue, but scar tissue. And then you're going to have a patient with white lines under his crowns. It's not a pretty sight. So in order to protect the soft tissue, mind you, when you're protecting the soft tissue, you're protecting the bone as well. The only blood supply for the cortical zone of the implant or the cortical zone of your bone, right in here, this junction, the blood supplies comes from the soft tissue. So if you have a healthy soft tissue, especially in this junction, you will have healthier bone. Healthier bone will lead to healthier soft tissue. Bone is the foundation for the soft tissue. On the other hand, the soft tissue is the blood supply for that bone. So think about it. Healthy soft tissue, you will minimize bacterial leakage. A healthy bone, you will minimize the micro movement. And this is the biggest advantage when you move into a system that have the platform switching. You're pushing the movement away from the bone as possible, protecting extra soft tissue because of the concave area, better blood supply, better bone healing, better foundation, better support. At the end of the day, your restoration option is a much better option. So if we look at this for an example, can everybody see like a little mistake that was done over here? This is an example of a doctor, okay, that did not think about his case before. He just used whatever they had in the drawer. 2 millimeter anatomic impression coping. That's all, healing abutments. That's all they have. Look in here. This is so close to the bone even here. The healing abutment is not almost barely engaging inside the implant. What can happen over here? Nothing. Soft tissue will not grow here. When you remove those two, you have this huge gap over here with no soft tissue. This one is okay. This one is okay. But these two are wrong. If the doctor will look at that, they will pick two different healing abutments over here. They will be able to go to a standard one, create that distance in order to give a chance to the soft tissue to grow. What is here? Again, this is the doctor opened his drawer, told his nurse, give me 2 healing abutments. He was not thinking. You see here, this is by soft tissue line. Right in here. The healing abutment, it's below the tissue. It does not do anything. You might as well use the cover screw that comes with the implant for free. Let it heal, come back one time, punch it, uncover it, and then use the right healing abutment. In this case, those healing abutments don't do anything. Actually, they're creating a problem. They're creating a void in the healing process of the soft tissue. Right? I mean, it's obvious. You might as well use the cover screw. He uses the healing abutments as cover screws. That's a waste of money. Prosthetic screws, by the way, remember one thing. You guys, as prosthetic guys, when you do your restoration, when you order a part from MIS, automatically it comes with a screw. You don't need to order screw separately. Okay? Please remember that. You don't have to order the screw separately. All the screws are made from the exact same titanium. One torque level, 30 Newton centimeters. Not 28, not 32, exactly 30. The narrow screws, 20. Gold screws, 15 to 20 Newton centimeters. Gold is a much softer material that will mold itself into the connection. You don't have to use higher torque. But please remember one thing. Screws are supplied with the abutments. Remember one number, 30 Newton centimeters. It's very simple. Don't over torque because you're damaging the inside of the screw, and don't under torque because you're creating a loose connection. Everybody have torque wrenches. Please use your torque wrench. 30 Newton centimeters, easy to remember. The tool to use, of course, is our hex driver. Provisional restoration. Any questions about healing about? Okay. Why do we need provisional restoration? We all know, smile from day one. This is something that in the past few years, more and more clinicians are going that way. They will want to send the patient home with something on the day of the surgery, okay? Also, we need to remember one thing. The type of restoration that is a provisional restoration, it's always a screw retained option. It's not cemented. It's a screw retained option, okay? Please remember that, it's a screw retained option. The abutment has to move out. We cannot leave it, it's a provisional. It's a temporary, okay? We are at MIS, we have 2 types of temporary abutments. We have the PIC abutment that, by the way, this particular abutment, the PIC abutment over here, comes in the C1 packaging for free. And there's a lot of things you can do with that free abutment that comes in. If you don't have the right healing abutment, okay, you can cut it, place it in place until your right healing abutment comes in a day or 2. You can temporize it. You have a temporary abutment. And it's made out of PIC. You can prep it in your office. You don't need to send it out to a lab. Your high speed can cut it. You can reshape it. And also, if you have a scanner in your office, it's made out of PIC. Place it, you can scan it. You can start preparing your prosthetic option. You have a scan, you can scan the margins, you can scan the location, you can start working on your prosthetic option. So there's a few things you can do with that PIC abutment that comes free in the box. Also, you can always cut the engagement one, you shave this off, and you have a non-engaging temporary abutment if you have a bridge work to do. In the titanium options, we have two types, engaging or non-engaging. And we all know all the benefits of provisional restoration, maintain acceptable function, aesthetic appearance until the permanent restoration. The most important part is the aesthetic appearance. Temporary abutment, you cannot load like a regular abutment. It's made out of thinner materials. The purpose is not to load the implant. The purpose is just to give an appearance. Okay, so aesthetic reason only. You always need to remember provisional, 1.5 to 2 millimeter below the occlusion. You don't want to put any pressure. That provisional, your bone is still soft. Also, it creates a template for the soft tissue and actually also preventing migration of neighboring teeth. If you have something in between, maintaining the position, neighboring teeth during the healing process will not shift over. Titanium provisional, you can use up to 180 days in the patient's mouth. The PIC abutment, 90 days. So 3 months to 6 months, it's the maximum time allowed to leave that in the patient's mouth. Don't use these as your final restoration. They're not made for that. It's a thinner product, thinner material that will not sustain normal filling forces. Okay? The purpose we did that, it's a thinner material. You can prep it in your office. Most of these are prepped in the office. You don't need to send it out to a lab like a normal abutment that is a solid piece of titanium that you need different machinery, that you need different tools to use. The adaptation is very simple. Use the titanium screw that comes with the abutment. And of course, you will use your regular hex driver to adapt the two. These are our options. As you can see, we have engaging or non-engaging in the titanium. In the PIC, one way only. By the way, this particular one right in here that you see comes in the C1 box with no extra charge. So this comes in your box. Then you have the option to use the titanium abutments, engaging or non-engaging, with, of course, this little profile. In the standard medium line, as you can notice, we have two profiles, 4/8 and 5/8. Same thing with the non-engaging 4/8 and 5/8. So when you do like a third molar, big crown, you can use the 5.8. Standard, you can use 5.8. So we made a standard platform with an extra wide abutment, wider than wide. The wide abutment is 5.5. We have a 5.8 platform on the standard implant. And why did we do that? If you look through the circle of what doctors are talking today is not using big implants anymore. You're trying to preserve as much native bone as possible. All those big implants like Megagen, the one ridge, 6 millimeter implants, 7 millimeter implants, 8 millimeter implants, that's the easy way out. But a good doctor understands when you're extracting a teeth, you're trying to preserve as much bone as possible. Don't drill too much. Don't enlarge your cavity too much. Place standard implants. 4.2, 4.3, 5 millimeter at the most. You don't need 6, 7, 8, 9 millimeter. That's the easy way out, especially on the tree-rooted teeth. A good doctor will know how to place within the root channel. Use the septum wall as a support. It's good bone. Take advantage of it. Now, when you do that, and you have a good surgeon that knows how to play with the existing bone, he will place a 4.2 or 4.3 implant, even in a molar. You can place a 4.2 implant and use a 5.8 abutment. Now you have your extra wide connection without over drilling, without destroying native bone. And that was the thought behind this, okay? Try to preserve as much bone as possible. When you're preserving the bone, you can use smaller diameter implant, but we still need extra wide abutment. And you will see that throughout the whole line. We're always going to have, in the standard platform, extra wide abutments. Process is very simple, very easy. You place it. Most of these are done chairside in the office, placing the abutments in, cutting occlusion, make sure it's off occlusion, of course. Here's an example right in here. You can cut it in your office. You will cement it outside of the patient's mouth, and you will deliver it with the screw right into the abutment. So now all the process is done outside of the patient's mouth. You will cut it. You will cement the crown outside. Always remember to clean all the excess cement. Now I have a one-piece abutment with the crown, temporary. Goes into the patient's mouth using a screw that can be removed later on. You will torque it, normal torque, 30 Newton centimeters. Two months later, 3 months later, come back and expose the screw channel, remove the abutment. Now at least you have the full crown already pre-made for you that you can move to your final restoration. The next step, of course, is to take the impression coping. Why do we need to take the impression coping? Is actually just transferring the patient's data from the patient's mouth into a stone model or a digital model to the lab in order for the lab to start producing the prosthetic option. You cannot work in the patient's mouth. You cannot do production inside the patient's mouth, and that is the main reason of taking the impression. 3 types of impressions are normally existing. You need to remember 2 things. We have the impression tray versus the impression technique. Most of you guys are familiar with all these. We have open tray, closed tray. Implant at our level or abutment level. Digital or conventional. These are the considerations that we have. The impression trays, we have metal or plastic or custom made. So now you're going to start looking, you want to go ahead and you want to do a closed tray impression copy. You have to pick either the metal or the plastic tray. You want to do an open tray impression coping that is considered to be the implant level. You can choose a metal or plastic, or normally on an open tray, people will go to the custom one. You will make your own impression tray in the patient. When you move to this is on the conventional one. Also, today, most used in the digital scanner. And then it is open and the sky is the limit as far as the way to do digital scanning. Scanner prices today are getting lower and lower. They're much more accurate, much, much better for the patients, better for the lab technician, better for the doctor. It's accurate, it's fast, and you don't have to retake anything. It's a digital file. The minute you have the digital file, you can transfer it to your doctor, you can transfer it to your lab. You don't need to take another impression. Your file is there. This is the way to go. Digital is the way to go. So prices are coming down. More and more offices are using scanners today. The digital dentistry, that's where everything is on today. Still, you still have your traditional open tray and closed tray. For the open tray, of course, mostly is common. The biggest advantage of the open tray, it's very, very precise. And also, it's indicated to non-parallel implants. When you have implants with the diversions of 8 degrees and more, you cannot use a closed tray. Please remember that number, 8 degrees. If you have one implant tilted 2 degrees one way, and you have the other implant on a multiple, of course. If you have another implant that is tilted 7 degrees the other way, 7 and 2, the diversions between those two, it's 9 degrees. You cannot use a closed tray. You must use an open tray. The open tray impression coping is considered to be the implant level. It's more precise. Also, it's not indicated for limited space, meaning all the way in your posterior, all the way in the back of the mouth. It's very hard to use the open tray. Hex driver 0.50 is the one to use. We have 2 kinds, standard or thin, according to the type of healing abutment you used before. That's where it comes to play. We also have 2 different heights, 11 millimeter or 15 millimeter. That's also you need to consider, is the implant at my bone level or my implant is at subcrestal delivery, 2 millimeter below the bone. That's where you're going to pick the right healing abutment, the right impression coping. Okay? Impression coping will determine how successful the case is going to be. So when you use the right healing abutment and you will take the right impression, you give your lab or your technician in your office a better chance to perform a better case. That's all it takes. And here's all the options. So as you can see, there is a lot of options. It's not just give me one open tray impression coping. Which one would you need? Narrow platform, standard platform, and wide platform. That's easy. But then you need to start determining, do you need the thin one or you need the regular one? And the profiles are different, as you can see. This is a 3.3, 375 and 3.2. 375 is regular, 3.2 is the thin, much, much thinner. Same thing over here. So instead of having one impression coping, now we have 16 different ones. Complicated, yes, but when you get used to it and you're going to see the good results that you're getting, then you will spend a little bit more time in ordering the right parts. Mind you, us as manufacturer, it made for us much more inventory, more machines, more production. But at the end of the day, we did all that so you guys can have better choices. So you guys can create better cases. Process, we don't have to go over it. It's pretty straightforward. Okay, you will uncover the implant, place the impression coping. This particular area shows a custom tray. Always make sure it's open. Make sure to open the screw before you remove the tray. That's the way to detach the abutment from the implant. Of course, placing the abutment analog over it and creating your stone model. One thing that we did, have flexible positioning. The impression coping, it's not round, it's oval. So you can place it at 90 degrees, or you can place it at 180 degrees. Meaning, if I have two adjacent implants, I can take one and I can spin it 90 degrees. Now I have more room in between in order to create better retention. We take one and we spin it around. So instead of being like this, you're like this. You're creating more room. You spin them around. It's an oval. It's not a round. You can always do customized stuff with it using Durolay in order to create that concaved area. So there's a lot of different tricks that you can do with the open tray impression coping. Every doctor have his own little tricks how to do it. By the way, what made this so precise, that the abutment is not moving inside the tray. Compared to the closed tray that we're going to see now, you will remove the abutment and place it by hand inside the tray. You will create some movement. You can create some friction. In the open tray impression, the abutment or the impression coping is embedded into your material. When you're removing the tray, it's not moving. It's already there. It's not moving. The huge difference. That's why it is so precise. Closed tray, of course, saves a lot of chair time. Indicated for parallel implants only. Please remember, straight implants only. Okay? And of course, area in the posterior limited spaces, the much shallower, smaller, with the plastic coping or the snappy. It's easier, very technique sensitive, but it saves a lot of time. These are the ones that are available. As you can see right in here, this is what I'm talking about. the snap cap, place this into the implant, place the cap over it, take the impression. When you remove, the cap stays in the embedded tray. You will remove this from the patient's mouth and place it by hand with the analog back into the tray. That's where most mistake will occur. Sometimes you're not pushing it all the way. Sometimes it's a little bit crooked. Sometimes it's even opposite. So that's where it's not as precise as the open tray. The press fit, of course, this is good for patients with gag reflex, that they not stand somebody in their mouth closing screws. So this is a quick, easy way to take an impression. It's not as precise because the patient can move this with his tongue. And of course, the old traditional Boston crown that's been in forever without the snapping. The implant analog, RSM10, indicated narrow, standard, and platform, and wide, of course, by the cup. Always remember, yellow, purple, and green. Everything will come to match. And again, you can see even in the open tray, more options, 16 different options. Standard and regular, thin and regular, short or tall. So we have, again, much more. Snapping, you use the screwdriver to close it. Press fit fits right in here. Post and crown, you can do it by hand or you can do it with the tool. I've been in the company for 20 years. I never sold one of those tools. Everybody uses his hand. Process is pretty soft, simple. Place the abutment in, put the tray over it, remove the tray, and that's where the non-precision will occur. You will have to do this and push everything back inside. This stage right in here makes it unprecise because that's where all the mistakes will occur. The end result is pretty much the same. You can see right in here the way it's done. Now the questions arise, what's better, open tray or closed tray? A lot of people ask me that. What should I use? I always say indication is the most important part. Parallel implant versus non-parallel implant, posterior versus anterior. Other than that, from all the studies that was done, the conclusion was, if you do everything with no error, okay, there's no difference between the two. You're getting the exact same result. It's an impression. You're transferring in information. But if you are not precise in the way that you do that, then there's a huge difference. If you have two implants oppositing each other and you try to use a closed tray impression coping, of course it will not work. When you have to start rocking your tray left to right in order to detach it from your implants, of course it's not precise. If you're trying to put an open tray all the way in your posterior, it's not going to work. So there is a problem. You have two options. But the main conclusion, studies was done forever. What's better? Accuracy of implants. It's okay. The conclusion was always, if you do everything the right way, there's no difference in the margins, there's no difference in the result. Always remember the 8 degrees, please. 8 degrees and more will consider the implant to be non-parallel implants. Cemented restoration, actually the use of cement for retention of crown or a bridge. These are the components, parts that we have. The aesthetic abutments, the straight abutments, and the CPK kits. In Vietnam, are you guys using the CPK? Daniel? I don't remember. Last time I was there was 3 years ago, so I don't remember if you guys are using the CPKs or not. Shlomi, maybe you know if they're using CPKs in Vietnam? Okay, so we'll talk about it. Because in some countries they don't use the CPK, so I don't want to spend too much time on it. Okay, so let's start with the aesthetic abutment. Aesthetic abutments, meaning comes with the predetermined margins. Okay, lingual versus buccal. The lingual side is always lower for aesthetic reason. These are the angles that are available. Straight at 0 degree. In the narrow, we have 10 and 20. Standard and wide, 15 and 25, as you can see right in here. Also, the margins over here are available 1, 2, and 3 millimeters. If this is 1 millimeter over here, it's 2 millimeters in the back. If this is 2 millimeters over here, it's 3 millimeters in the back. If this is 3 millimeters over here, it's 4 millimeters in the back. That is the aesthetic solution. The angulated is always from a straight angle or from a straight index. From the straight index, this is my straight index, 50 degrees. Straight index, 25 degrees. 1, 2, or 3 millimeters as far as the soft tissue height. If you look again in the standard platform, all three, 0 degrees straight, 15 degree angulated, or 25 degree angulated, we always have the option of 2 different profiles. Standard 4.8 or extra wide 5.8. So when you look through our catalogs, if you look through online, you will see a lot of options. So what I tell everybody is don't get frustrated. Don't lose your direction. Follow your particular case. Don't go crazy. Okay? Make sure that you understand positioning of the implant. How much soft tissue do you have? That's it. And according to that, go out and figure out the way you want to restore your case. Make sure to order all the right parts according to the height, according to the profile. And I guarantee you're going to have better results. Don't just use whatever you have. Follow your cases. Make it a little bit more customized. Okay? Now, the thing is that there's no difference in prices. It's not like, oh, my 5.8 is more expensive than the 4.8, so I'm going to use this one. No, there's no economics over here. They're all priced exactly the same. We give you the choice to pick. We give you the choice to pick the right part with the same price. So don't go crazy, try to save, because for us, you're not saving, okay? You're damaging your patient. Hex driver is the exact same component. As you can see until now, we saw one tool. The hex driver that comes in the surgical kit is the one to use on all prosthetic options. Straight or angulated abutment, concave, emergence profile. This is very important too. Standard or anatomic options. Deep chambers, okay? And of course, adjustments are needed. Rarely you will take an abutment out of his box, place it over the implant, and it will fit 100%. There's always some adjustments needed, okay? That's where your lab technician will order the right parts, and of course they can shave it, count it, recreate the margins, make it smaller, make it lower, and that's why we have a deep chamber. It's very, very easy to work with. On the straight abutments, on the other hand, these are more general solutions, fully preppable, available in all three platforms, standard, wide, and narrow. If you see here, there is no margins. No margins, nothing was predetermined. The lab technician, or you in your case, you can create your own margin. This is the platform. From here up, this is your abutment. If you feel like cutting, this is 1 millimeter distance, this is 2, 2, 2, and 3. So 3 plus 2 plus 2 plus 1. This is the total height. You want to cut 1 millimeter off, you want to cut 3 millimeter off, you want to cut 5 millimeter off, you want to cut it in an angle over here, you can do whatever you like. It's fully preppable, as long as you don't mess with this part over here. Okay, this is the adaptation, this is the interface, implant to abutment. Anything above this line, you can do whatever you like. You can do whatever you like. Here, you'll have to recreate some of the margins. You can cut this way. You can shave it. There's a screw channel in the middle. You want to make sure not to interrupt it. But this is fully preppable. That's what it says over here. It's fully preppable. On these, you always need adjustments. But it's a general solution. MAC10, MAC10. This is the #1 selling abutment we have, according to the platform. That's the abutment that we have. Give me a second, I can just shut off the phone. And again, standard abutment, MAC10, right in here. You can see again, 2 different profiles. Standard 4.8 or extra wide at 5.8. You can see right in here. Extra wide at 5.8. Molars, premolars, big cavity, big crowns. You can use this on the standard platform. This is a huge advantage. Not a lot of companies are thinking this way. Using a standard implant with extra wide abutment. Okay, this is something very, very big. Please remember that. We can skip the video. CPK stands for Complete Prosthetic Kit. Features 2 types of things. First of all, you can pick from 12 different options. We have 4 different types of gingival heights right in here. 1, 2, 3, or 4. And also we have the pillar height. The pillar height is this part over here. We have 3 options: 4 millimeter, 6 millimeter, or 8 millimeters, extra tall. 3 times 4 is 12. 12 different options per platform in order to order 1 prosthetic complete kit. It's a full and safe procedure without removing the abutment from the implant. Again, this is something very important to remember. The time that you open and close the implant, it's very important because that's where things can go wrong. Okay, you over-torquing, you under-torquing. When you open an abutment and you open a cover screw, bacteria will leak right into it. There's no other way. There's no chance. Bacterial leakage. Sometimes you're not closing the screw all the way down. Sometimes you're over-torquing. You're messing with the implant connection. The idea of a CPK that when you get this kit, by the way, it's designed for single or multiple, saves a lot of preparation time, because when you order the right part, you don't need to prep anything, because everything comes in the box for a full case. The abutment, that is the final abutment, you will place it over the implant with the screw that comes with it, and it never leaves the patient's mouth. It stays right there, like a one-time abutment. The minute you place it, you never take it out. Pick the right height, pick the right gingival height, place it, leave it alone. It comes with an abutment analog that matches that final abutment. It's a one-piece abutment on the analog. It's not a regular analog. It comes with a comfort cap, burnout sleeves, red and white, rotational or anti-rotational. I'll talk about it in a minute. And of course, the snap cap. So the process is very simple. You will place the abutment over the implant, torque it in 30 Newton centimeters, one time, and you're done. You will take the snap cap, place it over this, take an impression, close tray impression. After you took the impression, you take it out. This stays in the impression. You will take the abutment analog, place it inside the snap cap, take the comfort cap, temporary cement over this. Now you have the abutment with a cover, comfort cap, made out of silicone. Now you have like a healing abutment. Single case, you will send the red one to the lab. Multiple cases, you will send the white one to the lab. What these do, they will go over the analog. Within the wax up, they will create the space for the cement, a precise place for the cement. That's all it does. It's burnout sleeves. So basically, as you can see here, one kit contains everything that you need for a single case. You have 2 implants, get 2 kits. 3 implants, get 3 kits. The main idea here is the abutment is a final transgingival abutment. Why? You can pick the height, you can pick the pillar height. So no modification. Think about it. More than 65% of your cases are posterior, straight cases that you don't need angulation. Okay? You don't need to prep anything. If you pick the right height, if you pick the right gingival height, if you pick the right pillar height, there's no prep time. Look how much time and money you can save with this small little kit that you have. Now, good lab technician, and this is like a side note, if you have a bunch of these laying around, you can use these as titanium bases. Cut it to a 4, and here's your T-base. You can spray it, scan it. If anybody is into digital, they will understand exactly what I'm saying. Place it in the patient's mouth, spray it, scan it, build a crown over it. It's a titanium base. What's a T-base? It's a 4 millimeter straight pillar. Here you go. Cut this at the 4 millimeter line, and you have a T-base. Easy. Now, let's say you want to prep it a little bit. You know, I need to cut a little bit from the top over here. It's okay. Don't use this analog. Take it out of the patient's mouth, cut it, put it back in. Now you have a custom abutment. So you can do a lot of things with the CPK. If you understand the power of the CPK, you can use it all over, again and again and again. And of course, we have options, as you can see. CPK 41, meaning 4 millimeter post, 1 millimeter gingiva. 4-2, 4-3, 4-4. 6-1, 6-2, 6-3, 6-4, and 8-1, 8-2, 8-3, and 8-4. A lot of options. And again, in the standard or extra wide. Standard or extra wide. This is crazy. Look how many kits you have. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 different kits on one stupid abutment. A lot of options. Times each one of the numbers. So this one, 4 different heights. 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 So right in here, in the standard platform, 20 different abutments, 20 different kits. In the wide platform, we have 4 kits. In the narrow platform, we have 20 kits. So 20 plus 25 plus 4. Close to 30 different kits are available to you. Just pick the one that you need. No other company in the world is doing that. No other company in the world is doing that, guaranteed. And I work for Dentsply. MIS is only one of our divisions, and I love this. Like I said, you can always remove the comfort cap and use your whole healing abutment if you want to do a full procedure. So take advantage, because this is a very good transgingival abutment. Take advantage of it. For example, here we can see 3 CPKs in place, 3 impression snappies, close tray. So straightforward procedure. Right in here, here's my stone model according to the impression that we took. You can see the flat area over here. Flat area, flat area, flat area. The flat area indicating it is the buccal side. This is lingual, this is buccal. Buccal side always have the front. This is one thing you need to remember. Flat side of any of the abutment always towards the buccal. This way you have your right index, especially when it comes to angulation. Screw retain restoration. Are we doing okay on time? I think we have about 45 minutes left. So if you have any questions, please write them down. This way we'll give about 10 minutes at the end for questions for everybody. So screw retain restoration basically is the use of a screw retain of a monoblock. When we use screw retain restoration, we are creating a monoblock. We are creating a single unit, abutment crown, it's a single unit that is screw retained into our implant. And these are the options. The multi-unit, of course, that everybody is familiar with. The gold plastic cylinders. And of course, the best system in the world right now, the Connect abutment. MIS is the only company around the world who have this particular system. The best system ever. If you can use the Connect only, you'll be very, very happy. We have one of our customers in Belgium, Dr. David Norre. He uses two items from us, the V3 implant and the Connect abutment. That's all he got. Nothing else in his office. Gold plastic cylinder for casting. This is gold casting. We don't have an all plastic available anti-rotational or rotational. By the way, for any of you guys who have your own lab, this is gold A that requires minimum of 60% gold in your alloy. Okay? The alloy composition you can find in the back of our catalog, in the alloy composition, melting temperature, and the gold type. So just so you know, this is gold A. The biggest benefits, of course, is precise implant to crown connection. Gold is very, very precise. When I have the gold adapting into my implant connection, the gold will melt a little bit into the connection, create a perfect seal. So it will prevent micro movement. It will prevent bacterial leakage. So it's an excellent and precise implant to crown connection. The only disadvantage, of course, it's a little bit more expensive. It's an expensive process and then expensive parts to buy because it's made out of gold. On the other hand, we also have all the options over here, engaging or non-engaging. These are for strictly casting. So you all know it's casting on. Multi-unit, basically, it's a platform converter solution. Everybody's familiar with that. Available 17, 30, or 0 degrees. Profile heights of 1, 2, and 3 millimeters. And 4 on here. 1, 2, 3, and 4. And on the angulated, 1 or 2. Multi-unit, of course, for tilted implants, that a lot of doctors will do that in purpose. All on 4, all on 6, all on 8. Anything that is 2 implant and over, you can use a multi-unit. Very good distribution of forces between the implants. Why? You can work at the tissue level. It does not matter what angle is the implant, you can still create a passively fitted crown or a passively fitted bridge, okay, or a passively fitted overdenture. So these are made for screw retained overdentures. So let's look at, this is the way basically it looks at the end of the day. And here's all the secret of the multi-unit is this number over here. You see the 21-degree reversed angle? That is the whole secret. The 21-degree actually appears here as well. This angle over here, where my laser pointer is 21 degrees as well. And that is the whole secret. Why? Let's look at it. If I have 2 implants at 40 degrees from each other, meaning 20 degrees one way, 20 degrees all the way to the other side, I can still use a straight multi-unit abutment. Why? Don't forget, this is 21 degrees right in here. 21 and 21, it's 42. 42 less 40, it's 2 degrees. 2 degrees is considered to be a straight implant. Don't forget, 8, that's where everything falls apart. So 2 degrees on my restoration is considered to be straight. Let's look at the 17 degrees. If you have to use 17 degrees multi-unit, you can go up to 75 diversions between 2 implants. This is done purposely. Nobody by mistake will put 75 degrees between implants. This is done purposely, tilted implant on an all-on-4 case. And if you look at it, again, the secret number, 21 degrees right in here. 21 and 21, 42. 42 and 34, 76. 76 less 75, 1 degree. So even with huge angulation, using the corrected tilted of 17 degrees will bring everything back to 0. That's how big this case is. Multi-unit are engineered cases. That's why you have to be very specific, okay, on the way you're placing the implant. Furthermore, 100 degrees between two implants. When you use the 30 degrees, you can bring it to be straight. 30 and 30 is 60. 60 plus 42, 104. 102. 102 less 100, 2 degrees. So even 100 degrees between both implants, very, very tilted. At the end of the day, it's a straight case. So the multi-unit itself, it's not the abutment. They don't do anything. The multi-unit itself, it's correcting the depth and the angle. When we have the multi-unit in, then we move into the superstructure. And that's your components. You have your superstructure screws, your healing cap, this is your titanium base for custom. Scan body, scan post, analogs, open tray, closed tray, and of course your cylinders. Temporary titanium, gold plastic for casting, or all plastic for casting. So these are your final components. The multi-unit is the converter. It converts from the angle up to straight, passively fitted, and then you pick these. Most of these are done chairside. Most of these are done conversions. So there's a lot of things. Multi-unit, people are scared of multi-unit. It's the easiest restoration ever. If you understand what you're doing and you have a good technician with you, in your case, you can do a lot of good things. The biggest advantage, it's a full overdenture, over implants, screw retain. So the maintenance is much, much, much better than, for instance, ball attachments or locators. Okay, these are snaps or equators. These are screw retain, these are snaps. The screw retain, much better maintenance. You can unscrew it, maintain. You're not putting force, snapping over the ball attachment or snapping over the locator. It's a completely different feeling. The quality of life of your patients will tremendously improve by moving into an overdenture that is screw retained versus a component. So for instance, this is from Dr. Davar Pana in France, showing here the C1 implant, placing the implant with the indication, front side. 6 multi-unit are placed on the same day. Some bone grafting to cover everything. And of course, healing abutments over the multi-unit. Connect system. The Connect, hopefully it's available in Vietnam. And if it is, please use it. Not available? When? Shlomi, do you know when? I did not know it's not available. Okay, hopefully regulation will bring it to you guys very, very soon. Daniel, you need to work on it to make sure that you guys get the registration because it's going to be, according to Shlomi, it's coming in this quarter. So that's very, very good. So if you don't mind, I will skip that, right, Shlomi? And then we'll do a separate presentation when you guys will get it in your hand. Okay? So let me skip all that. We'll revisit that, of course, when you guys will get it in your hand. Overdentures. Overdentures, of course, is either a partial or a complete implant removable overdenture. Mind you that most overdentures globally are palatal support. The one that the patients are using OxyGrip or PolyGrip or all those adhesives, and they'll put it in their mouth and it's actually suction over the palate. They cannot eat normally, they cannot speak normally, everything moves all the time. So most of these are done by conversion. The patients will go to a doctor, they will remove that palatal support overdenture, and they will place an attachment. Can be a ball attachment, a locator, or an equator. 2, 3, or 4 in order to support that overdenture over an implant. Two things you actually gaining right now. By placing implants into your jaw, actually you will stimulate bone growth. Not having implants over here, putting pressure with the overdenture, all you're doing is you're losing bone every year until you get to the point that most of the patients have bone atrophy. They will use most of their bone on their jaw. Then you're going to get to the point that you'll have to do a huge amount of bone grafting. And of course, then you'll have to move to a completely different system. By placing 2 implants over here, or 3 implants, you're actually improving the quality of life of your patients. Most of those cases are done chairside. You use the old overdenture, put the attachments in, and you reconvert the overdenture by placing attachments into it. Let's look at it. These are the 3 things that are available. Locate, or like the old locator from Zest, the equator, and of course the ball attachments. Hopefully all 3 are available in Vietnam, right? Can you give me one quick question? Can we take like 2-minute break? I have a call from my manager in England. It's a quick call. Give me 1 minute, please. I'm sorry. Sorry. Okay, so 3 options are available as far as the overdenture. Locate, or like the locator, the equator, and the ball attachments. So Shlomi, you didn't tell me, are all 3 available in Vietnam, right? I cannot hear you guys, so Daniel, do you know it's all three are available in Vietnam? Let me see. Yes. Okay, good. So we're talking on the phone. So let's start. Ball attachments is the oldest, most used one, and honestly, the only reason that people are still using it today is because of cost. If you can avoid, and this is between you and me, if you can avoid using an overdenture of a ball attachment type, you're going to be better. It's one of the worst abutments ever because the way that the pressure it's putting on the actual bone itself. It's a very high connection. From the implant platform all the way to the top, it's 2.26 millimeters. It's very tall. You need to open very, very wide to fit over the abutment, to fit over the overdenture. It's very simple to use. It's very cost effective. That's why people are still using it. But on the other hand, medically, it does not make sense. Why? Because you don't have a lot of options for retention. All you have is a soft cap or a standard cap. A lot of cases, the standard is too hard and the soft is too soft. There's nothing in between. The metal housing is very, very tall also. This puts a lot of pressure on the bone. So yes, you are improving the quality of life of your patient by using an attachment, but on the other hand, it's very harsh. Every time they bite, they're hitting on that attachment and it's destroying the bone. In cases that you have a very shallow overdenture, you have to move to the gold housing, and then you need to use the rings, a standard ring that is made out of titanium or a soft ring that is made out of gold. This ring, they will go over the ball attachment, but then they will move. There's no retention there. So everything is very, very floppy. So it moves around because the only thing that is holding the ball attachment inside this housing is this ring. So can you imagine if you have this and a ring that is stuck over here inside the housing, nothing is holding that. This can move left to right. This can move up and down. And that is the danger part. When you have loose connection, when you have air gaps, when you have movements in here, it will affect all the way down into the screw. What's in here? My implant. What's around the implant? My bone. If you have movement on the top that will project itself all the way down, you will have bone loss. So the movement and the pressure will create bone loss. So you have to think about the whole thing. I know it's very inexpensive to use. I know it's very, very simple. You don't have to think much. Okay? Put the disc, cut the hole, put the housing in it, clip it over the implant. It's simple. But think about what's going to happen in a year, 2 years, 5 years. The movement in here, you will lose bone in here. So think about it. In case that you have a very narrow overdenture, the existing overdenture, you will have to use the narrow housing. The narrow housing, it's a little bit smaller in diameter. And again, just the ring. That's the only thing that's hold that ball in place with a lot of movement inside. You will see even patients that have the ball attachments, they're always adjusting their overdenture. They're always working with it. They're always trying to adjust it because it's moving. That movement will create bone loss. So you solved one thing. You solved now they can eat a little bit better. They can speak a little bit better, but now you're creating a bigger problem. They will start losing the bone. Compared to the locate system, that is basically the MIS locator, concave emergence profile, anodizing, compatible to the locator. So if you have in your stock, in your office, the old locator from Zest, the tools, the plastic components, it's 100% comparable. You can still use them, okay? It's available for the MIS internal hex or conical system, sold as a complete kit. Again, you don't have to buy 3 separate things like the ones that you used to use from Zest before. From Zest, you bought the abutment, and then you bought the metal housing with the processing pack, and then you bought the retention if you need extra. Here, everything comes in one pack. Also, it's a little bit more affordable than the actual Zest itself. So let's look at this. First of all, it's available, as you can see, 5 different heights on the narrow, 5 different heights on the standard, 3 different heights on the wide. And in one box, you will get the plastic disc, 3 retention caps. And here's the biggest advantage now. You have the extended range up to 20 degrees. So now you have 5 options on retention caps. A little bit softer. The adaptation, now there's no movement. If you have the metal housing in here, the plastic is in the metal housing, this will snap into the overdenture like a button. There's no movement, like the ball attachment. When there's no movement on here, when there's no movement here, there's no movement here. If there's no movement here, you're not losing bone. Simple as that. Movement will create vibration, will create micro movement. It will take 1, 2, 3, 5 years. You will start seeing the effect of bone loss. It will not happen over here. See, accurate force range. Better resistant to absorption over time. And here's some technical information. First of all, our low kit comes with the concave abutment. Other than that, it's pretty much exactly the same like the locator, one of the best systems ever created by Zest. Zest became millionaires just from these attachments over here. Now we have our own, the low kit. We have the concave emergence profile. Other than that, basically, if you guys are used to use Zest locators, nothing changed. It's the exact same components like the one from MIS. And here's the difference between the two. You can see right in here. We have the advantage, of course, with our color coding. This way, there is no mistake when trying to adapt into our implant. And of course, the concave abutment that actually will give you the extra soft tissue. And we all know, we spoke about it earlier today, extra soft tissue, extra blood supply to the bone. Everything works together. Better bone preservation, better bone distribution, better blood supply. Everything stays a little bit healthier. A little bit healthier. We sell our stuff in a kit. You don't have to buy anything else. Pick the right height that you want. Everything that you need comes in that little kit. We have a driver and we have the core tool. Okay, this is the exact same one from Zest. So if you had one from Zest, don't throw it away. You can use it. You can still use it. Okay, the driver is the way to put the low kit in place. So this is the only tool that you will need to buy one time on your first case. And of course, it's pretty much the same like anybody else's. It comes with a grip. You place it in place. You will put the silicone ring over it and the metal housing on top of that. You will hollow out your overdenture, snap everything in. When it dries out, you will remove, place your silicone caps on it, and you snap it over your locators. Follow-up is very, very important. 3 months, 6 months, it depends how many you have. Go back to your doctor, remove the overdenture, put it in the solution, clean it, make sure that the locators are still in place. If you need to make sure that that's still torqued, general maintenance, nothing special. And these are all the different options. You can do it either chairside, okay, or you can actually take an impression, use the analog, send it to the lab, and have the lab recreate a whole new overdenture. Most of these cases are done conversions, reusing the existing overdenture. Now, the Equator, it's an MIS production with the rights of Ryan 83. Ryan 83 is the creator of the Equator. They manufacture for all over the world. It's a company out of Germany. We have the right of production. And what it is, it's a combination of the locator and the ball attachments into one thing. It's as simple as the ball attachments as far as how to use it. You see right in here. It's simple. But on the other hand, it comes with all the retainers like the Equator. So you have two different options. First of all, you don't have that micro movement that will go all the way down. Let's see why. Because in the bag, you will get all this. One price, one package, you get all this. You get your processing pack, metal housing, and then extra soft, standard, or strong. Now you have much more options. Everything comes in one bag. And this is a plastic PVC, PVD cap that does not create any movement. It will snap over it, and there's no movement like on the ball attachments. It's not metal on metal. It's PVD coated into a metal housing. The metal housing is embedded into your overdenture. So we took the biggest advantages of the locator is the caps. We took the biggest advantage of the ball attachment, that's the ease of use, the process, and we combined the two into one attachment. It's called the Equator. So here it is. Now, the MIS way, we like to put everything in packages. This way to keep things simple. Measure the soft tissue height that you need and order the right kit to fit your case. All the housings and all the retention caps comes with it. Normally, most of the doctors will start with the soft pink. Send the patients home for two or 3 months. Start getting used to it and come back for your first visit. It's too loose, we'll go to the white. It's too hard, we'll go to the orange. Okay? But all these in a small little bag, put your patient's name on top of it, give it to your patient in his hand. Tell him next time you come to visit me, please bring these with you. We might use them. Okay? Very important part. You don't have to buy anything else ever. One time. Process, as you can see, is exactly like the ball attachment. Simple. You put the locator, the Equators in, put the plastic disc. The plastic disc actually is protecting the soft tissue from the cement. You put the housing over it, putting the glue over the housing, making the holes in the overdenture, cementing everything in, placing the retention caps inside. Soft pink is always the start, and you snap everything in place. Process is straightforward, exactly like the ball attachment, but I have all the advantages of the locator, no movement, and extra options on the retention caps. This is huge. So out of those three, it makes sense to use the Equator as much as possible. Why? Also, it's the lowest attachment. It's a very, very low profile. So the patient does not have to open very big in order to put in and out. Also, it's very easy to snap things in and out. If you look at the retention, on the soft pink, it's 1.2 kilograms per attachment. So if you have 4 attachments, now you have 4.8, less than 5 kilos of retention force. So it's very easy to remove in and out. You can skip the video. Last but not least is titanium bases for customized abutment. A quick question for you guys. Any CEREC users? Yes or no? Shlomi? Is CEREC available in Vietnam? Okay, good. So the answer was yes. By the way, this particular titanium base is fully comparable with the CEREC process. The only thing you need to get is the Sirona gray cap. Okay, you will place the titanium base over your patient's mouth. Use the Sirona medium gray cap with the triangle on the top. Snap it over the titanium base. Scan it with prime scan, with OmniCam, with whatever you have. And then you're going to CEREC for production. All the titanium base of MIS, standard, wide, and narrow, conical or hex, are part of the CEREC library. This is just a quick note. I know this is not the CEREC session, but if you have any CEREC users in the crowd, just to let you know, it is available. Okay? So titanium base, of course, is for CAD/CAM production, engaging or non-engaging. We have 0.5 millimeter, 1.5 millimeter, and 3, as far as the post heights, are also available in the 3 post diameters, 4.2, 4.3, and 5.7. With titanium base, you can do 2 things. You can do conventional, cement retained, or you can do regular screw retained. It's either or. Most of the CAD/CAM libraries have the MIS information. It's within most digital libraries. This is all the options, as you can see. Again, a lot of different options. A lot of different options. Engaging or non-engaging. Single tooth or in regular. By the way, this division within MIS is the most growing options right now. Within production, we see an increase of about 400% increase in production of CAD/CAM because that's where the direction is going to. One more part is the easy base with a back screw access. Okay, so this is enabled. It's another screw retain option with a back access, anterior cases. The screw access is in the back, so you can do your angulation. CAD/CAM procedures, high aesthetic solution. It comes with a unique screw that comes for that. It's a unique screw with a unique tool, with a star, that you can go up to 20 degrees of angulation in the back area. And of course, last but not least, the scan post. The scan post by MIS, available across the board for all 3 platforms, available also for the multi-unit and for the Connect coming up for you guys by the end of the quarter. It's made out of titanium with a very special coating on top of it. It's spray that comes on the special. You can reuse it. You can autoclave it. You can wash it. The biggest advantage over here, it works very, very well with the new technology, with blue light. There is no reflection on the X-ray. There's no reflection on your scans. It appears very, very well. It's geometrically shaped. There's a point and a round back, so it's very, very easy to see the indication. Buccolingual, sides, very, very easy to read it, and it provides excellent imaging. Most important thing is it's reusable. take it out of your patient's mouth, clean it, wash it, autoclave it, keep reusing it. You can buy it separately, or you can buy it as a kit. The kit, of course, comes with 3 of each: 3 narrow, 3 standards, 3 wides, 3 multi-units, and 3 connect. This is for labs or for doctors who have their own titanium milling machine. There's not a lot. This is pretty much like an Atlantis production. It's customized abutment made out of titanium. We have the titanium blank that comes with the MIS interface. What you need here is a special holder that you can buy from Anti-Trading, a company of Germany. The milling strategy, it's by Aman Girbach. So these are all outside companies that if you have a lab that have the big titanium milling machine, we can offer them if they want to buy the holder, and we can sell them the titanium blanks. It's not as popular, but still, once in a while, some doctors like to create their own custom titanium abutment. Last but not least, I will finish with this over here. We do have a prosthetic toolkit available for MIS. It's available for most of the doctors who do all their own restoration, because in here you have all your tools that you need in order to create your final restoration. You have motor hex driver, abutment extractor, prosthetic torque wrench that you need to buy, because the torque wrench that comes in your surgical kit is not suitable for prosthetic options. It's for 75 Newton. These are limited up to 30. You have the universal holder, you have production plug-in analogs, and of course, all the components that you need: ball attachments, equators, locators, cement, screw retain. All your options are here in one little kit. MK0039, this is the number for it. If you have any questions, thank you so much. This is the time. Let me stop the share, and you guys can come online and we can answer a few questions. Shlomi, the stage is yours.
Của các bạn. Henry, we have 2 questions while you give the presentation. The first one relates to Connect, because we do have Connect in Vietnam. Because in the interpretation mode, I cannot speak. So, but we have.
Shlomi told me no, so that's why I skipped it.
No. We have, but it's not very popular. Very few users use it.
Wow.
It's not.
It's the best. It's the best system in the world. You know that.
Yeah, it's the best, but it's not cost effective.
Oh,
but you can persuade them. Okay, so one young dentist here, he has been to MIS factory. And let me find his question. He asking about the Connect, actually, I think.